Hey Divas, welcome, welcome, welcome. Can you please hit a one in the chat, please? If you can hear me before we get started, can you please put the one in the chat and let me know you can hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Please put a one in the chat and let me know that you can hear me. Okay, my sis Teresa said that she can hear me. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. How is everybody doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome to Pink Table Topics. I am your host and your good sis, Pink Diva. Thank you so much for joining me. As you're pulling your seat up to the table, don't forget to hit that like button. Feel free to drop down and leave a comment, engage in the topic, and hit that bell notification so that you'll be notified each and every time I drop a new topic. And as you know, our mission over here is to create a safe space for women to gather as a community, engage in healthy dialogue regarding real life issues that we as women deal with on a daily basis, and to foster the true meaning of sisterhood. And if you are here, that means you are subscribed and representing the Diva tribe, and not just any diva. We are divine, inspiring, valiant, and admirable. Welcome to the table, divas. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I hope you had an amazing day today. And don't forget, we have to get our motivational quote of the day out of the way. And today it is: heal for the girl you were, protect the woman you are now, and fight for the queen you were created to be. Let me say that again. Heal for the girl you are, protect the woman you are now, and fight for the queen you were created to be. That's our motivational quote of the day. And as you know, I have to be courteous when you come to my house. So let me go around the table and do my Divas roll call. Let me see who we have with us today. We have my good sis, our Diva Mama V is in the house. Hey, sis, Teresa. Hey, Diva. Thank you so much for joining. Real Talk with Grace and Mercy is in the house. Hey, sis. Thank you so much for joining. How you doing? How you doing? Lady Sweetness to you. Hey, sis. How are you doing? Thank you so much for pulling up to the table. I really appreciate you for being here. Hey, baby girl. Good evening, sis. Thank you so much for joining. Peace, love, and light is in the house. Hey, Diva. Thank you so much for joining. My good sis, Irene is in the house. Hey, sis. Thanks for pulling up to the table today. Thanks for joining. Reen Bass is in the house. Hey, sis. Thank you so much for joining. My sis, my sis. Chit Chat is in the house. Hey, sis. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining. Cinnamon Swirl is in the house. Hey, sis. Thank you so much for joining. Daughter of Israel is here. Hey, sis. Thank you so much for joining. Dragonfly Alchemist. Okay, I like that. Hey, Diva. Thank you so much for pulling up to the table. Kimberly Anthony is here. Hey, Diva. Thank you so much for joining. Let me make sure I covered everybody. And if I missed somebody, please forgive me. It wasn't on purpose. So please, 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 let me see. I think I covered everybody. Let me see. Let me see. Did everybody have a good, I was about to say Saturday. I wish it was Saturday. Did everybody have a good Tuesday? I was about to say Saturday. Take me back to the weekend. Oh my goodness. Okay, I think I covered everybody. If you come in, please make sure you hit the like button on your way in. If you happen to come in and I didn't speak to you, it was not on purpose. I won't be looking at the chat so that I can stay on topic, but I will check in periodically. Teresa, sis, I tried to mod you up. I'm not sure what's going on with YouTube, I tried to mod you up, but for whatever reason, I still see that your mod stick isn't showing. So I'm not sure what's going on. I'll have to take a look at that again after the live. I'm not sure what's going on. So I'll definitely check into that. So, as you saw on the thumbnail, and let me just say this. The topic that we're bringing to the table today is, why didn't she just leave when the victim is being blamed? And we're going to talk about it. And before we get started, let me give a trigger warning. If this topic is triggering for you, I apologize in advance. And if you feel that it may get a little bit too heavy for you, I will totally understand if you may have to step away. So I want to make sure I get that out of the way. And I am also going to put the domestic violence hotline number going across the screen. So if you or anyone you know is experiencing abuse in any form or in need of any help, please contact the domestic violence hotline. And that number is 1-800-799-7233. I have it going across the screen. So I definitely want to make sure that we say that. Make sure I say that and get that out of the way. Thank you, sis, for putting that in there. Hey, Cricket22. Thanks for joining, sis. She said, good evening, Pink Table Topics, and everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for pulling up to the table. Cinnamon Swirl says she hears static. Does anyone else hear static? Please let me know. Please let me know. Am I clear? Am I clear? If you hear static, please let me know, and I'll have to adjust the mic a little bit. Hey, sis. Wandy is in the house. Hey, sis. Thank you so much for pulling up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let me start the discussion by saying this. I am a huge advocate for domestic violence in my city. And I have connection to many resources for women that are in abusive situations. So this topic is very near and dear to me. I make it my business to advocate and help raise awareness against domestic violence, not just in the month of October, which is the Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but every single day. So I wanted to make sure that I stress that. So I definitely wanted to make sure I get that out of the way and say that because it's something that is very near and dear to me. And so as you can see on the thumbnail, I have Cassie and Diddy. And I use that image because of the heavy publicity going on surrounding the very, very disturbing allegations toward Diddy and all of the victims that are now coming forward with information regarding the very degrading and senseless acts of abuse. And I wanted to talk about some of the comments that I'm seeing across social media. And I want to talk about one in particular, which is the question that I'm seeing a lot is, why didn't she leave? Now, keep in mind, I'm using Cassie and Diddy as an example, but I'm speaking for victims all over the world. I know this topic has many, many layers to it, and we're not going to get into all of them today. But what we're going to do is speak on this particular portion of it. Why didn't she leave? Hey, LaDawn. Thanks for joining, sis. Thanks for joining. Hi, Capricorn Flower. Thank you so much for pulling up to the table, sis. I really appreciate you. Thank you for being here. So my question is, why is it easier for us to address the victim for not walking away or speaking out sooner instead of addressing the perpetrator for the abuse? Why is it that society would rather punish the victim opposed to speaking out about the perpetrator? Why does it seem like the first question most people ask is, why didn't she leave? And I've seen that so many times over social media, not just with the recent Diddy situation that's going on, but every time there is a victim that comes forward and excuse me, and she's speaking on her experience, why is the question always, why didn't she leave, instead of why was their partner, family member, or ex being abusive? Why is that never the question? Why is the question never to the perpetrator? Why are people not asking the perpetrator, why were you abusing the victim? Why is that a question we hear far too often when it comes to abuse? Why is it so hard for people to understand that leaving isn't always an option? Have you ever stopped and thought that she didn't leave because maybe, just maybe, she was more at risk of being unalived if she left? Maybe she was financially dependent upon the abuser. Maybe she had nowhere to go, because we know majority of the times the abuser will isolate you and isolate you from your friends and family and make you think that they're all you have, right? Maybe she didn't want to bring her family into her drama. We've seen, family members, unfortunately, sometimes have been unalived for stepping in and trying to help. Maybe she didn't want to, maybe she couldn't leave because he wouldn't allow her to take the child or the children. And she feared if she left the kids behind that he would possibly harm them, because we have seen some abusers have done that, right? Maybe she didn't know any different. Maybe the abuse felt normal because she had been conditioned for so long to think this is how love felt. Maybe she still loved the abuser and hoped that, one day he would change. And if we're keeping it real, most of us have stayed in situations way longer than we should have, thinking that they would change, right? And I know I'm guilty of that. I've been there. We stay longer thinking that, what? Maybe eventually he'll change. Maybe he's going through something. So maybe if I stick it out and stay a little longer, maybe it won't happen tomorrow or next week or the next month. Maybe she feared he would harm himself, because there have been situations to where a lot of the abusers were threatened to unalive themselves and say it would be your fault, right? So maybe you didn't want to have that guilt. You don't want to live with the guilt of them possibly harming themselves if you left. Maybe she knew that leaving still wouldn't stop the abuse. So what's the point, right? There are so many factors that play a part in why a victim didn't leave when you thought they should have left, or why did they stay, right? But most importantly, one of the biggest factors as to why a victim did not leave is fear. Just fear. That's a hard pill to swallow, because they are scared. They are unafraid of what could possibly happen. So what I don't understand is, why is it so hard to understand? What's so hard to understand about an individual living in fear? Because it's very possible. Yes, he can leave and go to work for 8 whole hours out of the day, leave the door wide open, and out of fear, you wouldn't walk out of it. It's always easier when you're on the outside looking in to say what you would or wouldn't have done. So sometimes you have to take into consideration that when you're going through situations like this, sometimes it takes years for victims to finally be able to speak up and out about what they went through. Some victims fear that nobody will believe them if they did come forward. We see that happening today. Look at all the criticism that's going on now with victims that are coming forward and speaking on the abuse that they have suffered, right? Because the abuser make it his or her job to condition them into thinking that way. They purposely isolate you from friends and family, making you believe that he's all you have. You know the saying, it's us against the world, right? They constantly beat you down until you literally have no more fight left. So you stay and take it, hoping that just one day you will have the strength to get out of the situation. So when you finally do get the little strength and courage to leave, the next hurdle you have to cross is having people blame you for the hell you went through. Can somebody please help me understand that? The abuser gets to walk around gaslighting you, telling folks you're lying, doing things to manipulate you into coming back, all of those things. But you, the victim, is being scorned and ridiculed every single day for speaking out about your experience, regardless of how long it took to speak out. Some of these abuse and seeing a lot of things too. Some of these abusers are very powerful. Their money can pretty much buy them out of almost anything. So many of them get away with it. And if you are in a situation with a high-powered abuser that have money and influence within the community amongst their friends, family, or whatever the case may be, of course you're intimidated about leaving and when to leave and if you could possibly leave. So it will take you longer. And do you honestly think that there's a dollar amount high enough to make a victim willingly stay in an abusive situation? And I did say willingly. See, folks like to sit back and say stuff like, well, she wasn't crying victim when he was taking her on all of those shopping sprees. She wasn't crying victim when she was living lavish and cruising on his yacht. She wasn't crying victim while she was on his arm at all the fancy parties and so on, right? That all looks good, but none of that matters or takes away from the fact that behind closed doors, she was being beaten and abused. Because here's the thing, money does not erase trauma and abuse. Having fear of your abuser is real. Having fear of speaking out is real. We have seen on countless occasions when victims come forward and speak out, the ridicule and backlash they get for taking too long to say something, which is why so many women are today still suffering in silence. I'm talking about victims. We're not speaking on the ones that lied and gave false allegations. Today is not their day. We're talking about victims. Who said there was a time frame on when a victim should come forward? Who said that? It takes many years to get to a point of even being able to talk about the abuse. There are many women that suffered abuse through their childhood and never had the courage to speak out. Does that mean it didn't happen? Does it? I know a young lady that it took her 14 years to speak out on her abuse because she was abused as a teenager. And because she was underage, her mother did not want to face the backlash about taking the abuser to court. So she never spoke on it. She never spoke on it until 14 years later. See, being in abusive relationships break you down mentally. It handicaps you in ways you couldn't even imagine. There are times when you can't even think about leaving because you're just trying to survive, doing any and everything necessary to not make them angry and just keep the peace as best you can. You have to literally walk around on eggshells in your own home for the sake of keeping the peace. You know that everything going wrong in their lives becomes your problem. You get penalized for what they are going through. But how dare you leave? And let me pause and say this while we're here. To any of you that have experienced abuse on any level, My heart goes out to you because I too have been there. So I know how it feels and I know how hard it is. I'm also so thankful for those of you that got out and stayed out because it's hard to muster up the courage to do that. And to those of you that are in the process of trying to get out, we are praying for you and your safety, and that God keeps you covered and gives you the courage and resources needed to get out of that situation. And let me say this also, if you are stuck and in need of assistance in your area, please reach out to me in my inbox over on Instagram, on my Instagram page, Pink Table Topics, and I can help get you connected to some resources in your area. So please do that. And also, I have to say, my heart goes out to those that did try to get out, but unfortunately, they didn't make it. So, prayers up to those of you that may have lost loved ones at the hands of an abuser. So, my prayers go up to you. And, ladies, know this, there is no expiration date on when you decide to speak up about your abuse. I don't care if it happened during Jim Crow. If you just now in 2024 feel comfortable and safe enough to speak on it now, you do that. Don't ever allow people to shame you into suppressing what you went through because that's your experience. You went through that situation. It wasn't them. People don't get to tell you that you should have said something sooner. Just because I didn't say it sooner doesn't mean it did not happen. Do you not understand the mental anguish that a person has to go through being able to, one, try to muster up the strength to say, you know what, I'm going to be courageous enough to finally say something? Well, first of all, I need to try to find somebody to say it to because you can't tell everybody everything. So you have to have somebody that you feel close enough to that you can actually first off decide, like, let me take the first step and let me share it with my girlfriend. This is somebody that's been here for me. They kind of already knew what I was going through. You kind of have to find, and everybody doesn't have a support group, so it's harder for others more so than some. Everybody does not have a support group, so it's not always easy to come out because of the emotions. You go through so many different emotions, and you just have to, for one, try to work it out with yourself first. You are going, all of this stuff is replaying in your head. You're going through the why me? Why did I have to go through this? And then you have to understand too, there are many times that you did try to leave, but he gaslights you into staying. It's always, and I'm sorry, or you made me do it. I didn't want to do it. Or if I didn't love you, I wouldn't have done it. And then they give you all of these gifts. They shower you with gifts and flowers. And, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. And then you stay, they're okay a little bit while longer. And then again, it starts all over again. So it's almost like the process stops and starts all over again. So when people say, why didn't you leave? They don't take into consideration everything that goes on behind the scenes. And when you are mentally beaten, when you are emotionally beaten, you have to find yourself all over again. And it happens so frequently that it becomes your normal. This is normal for me to wake up. Sometimes you can just, it doesn't have to be a reason at all. You can wake up and think it's a good day and just say, good morning. And for that, you could possibly be getting abused. What makes it so good? So you can't ever say why a person didn't move when you think they should move. And it's easy to say it when it's not you. But when it's you in the situation, it's different. So we can sit on the outside all day long and say the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, or I would have did this, or I would have did that, or I never would have stayed. Well, you know what? Be fortunate, be grateful enough that you were fortunate enough that you didn't have to go through that. because there are many, many, many women that are constantly going through it. There are some that are being abused and don't even know that there is a thing as there is a thing such as emotional and mental abuse. The way you talk, the way you treat them, all of that is a form of abuse. So if you haven't experienced, you be thankful that you haven't experienced it. And don't be so quick to judge. Don't be so quick to say what they should or should not have done. Don't be so quick to criticize because it took them 15 years to decide, okay, now I have the courage to speak up. Now I can say something, right? Don't be so quick to judge. And I'm just saddened at the way that we as women are made to feel that our experiences are null and void. I constantly browse comments and see why so many women never come forward. Just reading the comments alone. If I'm in a situation like that, I can see why people don't come forward. And you know what the kicker is? It be us. I have never in my life seen so many women that will turn on their sisters in support of an abuser. Make that make sense to me until they themselves have to walk in those shoes. And see, sometimes all it takes is one person to take the lead and come forward. And then that helps others feel a bit more confident in coming forward and speaking out. So, in regards to the Cassie and the Diddy situation, I applaud Cassie for being brave enough and finally speaking out because it was her that helped pave the way for the others. Although she went the civil route, the information that was in her court documents actually opened the floodgates. So, kudos to her because I know it wasn't an easy task because she too is still being victim shamed. She was a victim. This girl was groomed at an early age. I think, if I'm not mistaken, some say 19 is when she first connected with Diddy. Now, let's think back to when we were 19. And to those of us who have daughters, let's think back to when our daughters were 19. Even though with the government legally at 19 you're deemed an adult, but come on now, at 19 you still do not have an adult mindset. You still need the guidance of your parents or your loved ones or what have you, so you don't know how to still make adult decisions at 19. So the fact that they're saying she consented, or she did it because she wanted a record deal, or whatever the case may be, this was a 19-year-old girl. There is no way she said, okay, yeah, I'll sign up for all of this at 19. See, trauma has no end date. So I know she and many others have had to relive those dark moments all over again. And see, every time somebody talks about it, you have to relive it, as I'm sure many of you have. So trust me when I say, I know it's hard. There's no way you can sit and be in your right mind and think that it is okay for an abuser to get away with abusing someone. And then the go-to is to blame and shame the victim. Why are we not calling these men out for the despicable acts that they are doing? Why is it we always go toward what the woman could have done, or what did you do to make him react that way? Why can't it ever be, why did you react that way? Why did you put your hands on her? What makes you want to hit women? What makes you want to abuse women? Why are we not holding the abusers accountable? And why is it that it's us as women that are talking down and victim blaming our sisters? We are somebody's mama, daughter, aunties, friends. Why is it okay for us to be abused and then we get blamed for being abused? Why? Let me pause and read some comments. Teresa says, I'm still in counseling, but I'll be darned if I sit by and let another one of our sisters go through that. I totally agree, sis. And it be years and years and years of counseling. Years of counseling. Girlfriend Chronicle says some may have suppressed it as well. And then one day something triggers the memory. You are so right. I was just having this conversation with sis earlier today, talking about the video from last week, and when I was sharing what I went through in my divorce, and I told her, like, that conversation triggered me after that live. And when I say it's over, what, almost 15 years ago, but the fact that talking about it still triggered something in me, that it bothered me after I hung up from the live. And I'm sitting here like, I didn't even know I was still bothered by that, because I hadn't talked about that. I haven't shared that. I'm talking in years. So to actually sit and have talked about it, it brought those memories back up and it triggered me. So people don't get to tell you that you should be healed. And again, I said this was 15 years ago. So people don't get to tell you that you should be over something. And trust me, I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter. I'm far past bitter. But it triggered me to be having that conversation, because I had to sit in that for a minute and say, wow, I really did go through that. So, and a lot of you probably couldn't tell because I was putting it myself on mute. I got emotional a couple times having to talk about that. So, you don't get to tell a person when they should be over something. You don't get to tell me that because I'm talking about it, I must be still attached to that person, or I'm bitter because I'm sharing my story. That's not how it goes. Trauma, abuse, and any of that, it has no expiration date. I can talk about it for as long as I need to talk about it, because talking about it is a part of my healing. So I have to talk about it in order to heal, right? Bridget says, no one can tell me when enough is enough. Nobody. Absolutely. Nobody can tell. Nobody can tell you when enough is enough. Nobody. Cinnamon Squirrel says, has anyone heard anything about Cassie's home life as she was growing up? I haven't, and that's a good question, because that was a question that I wanted to know, especially when they were saying she was 19. I was wondering, like, what role did her parents play in being okay? And I get that she was 19. And again, like I said, most states, 19 is considered a legal adult. So you could possibly make your own decisions. But just still, as a parent, I know how I was with my kids still at the age of 19, and even how my parents were with me still at the age of 19. Still today, my youngest daughter will be 30 in October, and I'm still, like, every day, I'm still as involved as I was with them when they were 19 years old. So I kind of, question that too. Baby Girl says, the way a lot of people were raised, especially in our culture, is to take it. The man is right. No, ma'am. Absolutely. No, ma'am. He's not. And I do think it is a cultural thing. A lot of times, because culturally, when abuse came in the picture, we were always told it was always swept under the rug and not talked about. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And all it did was allowed us to grow up as traumatized adults, because we had all of this baggage that we've held in for years. and not had the opportunity to release, talk about it, and let it go. Sis says under the makeup at those events, she was covering up bruises. Yes, she was. Yes, she was. And if you would look at a lot of those photos, and even though she had a smile on her face, her eyes told a different story. You could just see the hurt, the fear, and all of that in her eyes. And just don't think people really pay attention. I'm sure a lot of those events she attended and a lot of the things that he had her a part of, she didn't willingly want to do it, but out of fear, she had to show up. I'm quite sure he forced her to get dressed, and when we go out here, you put a smile on your face. Don't you let me look at you and see that you don't have a smile on your face, to have people thinking something is going on. I'm sure she got those pep talks before they walked out the door. I'm almost certain she did. Peace, love, and light said, it's hard to believe, especially when it looks from the outside, that everything is perfect. And most don't know the facade, not knowing what's going on behind closed doors. Absolutely. And that goes on more frequent than not. You wouldn't believe what people go through behind closed doors. You think that they seemingly have it all together. Every time I see her, she's smiling. Every time I see them together, they're holding hands, but you don't know what happened in the car, on the way to get to where they were going. You don't know the conversation that was had. You don't know how many times he kicked her under the table to tell her to smile or to straighten up and, behave this way. And they just don't get an excuse. They don't get an excuse in my book. I don't care about you being a man of a certain caliber. I don't care the money that you have. I don't care. And a lot of the comments that I'm seeing is, Puffy is an icon in the community, and these women are trying to bring him down. I could give a rat's patoot what kind of icon he is. If you were out here doing the things that they say you were doing, you deserve to be locked up under the jail. I don't care what kind of icon that's not an excuse because you are an icon. It's not an excuse. It does not excuse the behavior. Cinnamon Swirl says, as women, we must realize we are the prize and not these raggedy men. You are so right, sis. You are so right. I really, really wish that more of us would understand that we are the prize. I really wish if I could just gather all of the young teenagers and young adults in the world and just love on them and speak life in them and to help them see that they are the prize and help build their self-awareness and help build their confidence and tell them that, we love them, tell them that they're beautiful, because sometimes they are missing all of this attention at home to when they go out in the street, and the first time a man say I love you, then they have them wrapped around their fingers, because you know what, a lot of them didn't hear it at home. And then there are some of them that did hear it at home, but they still get themselves unfortunately mixed up with the wrong people, the men that didn't have no good intent for them. So I just wish I could reach all of them. Daughter of Israel said they also isolate you from your family that loves you as well. Absolutely. I've seen a lot of situations. I do a lot of domestic violence advocacy here, and we have support groups that I attend, and just hearing some of the stories from the women that are saying that they don't have family, excuse me, because those bonds were broken because they either stayed in the relationship with their abuser for too long, to the point to where the family just got tired of trying to talk them out of it, or they would leave and then they would go back. So the family just threw their hands up, and at this point they feel like, well, what can I do if I keep assisting and she keeps going back? And, it's unfortunate that a lot of them go back, but until they are ready to just call it quits and completely leave and walk away, um, there's really nothing you can do but to stay and just still be a support. So if you are dealing with a friend, family member, or anyone that you have tried to help that you know is in an abusive situation, please don't give up, because they do need you deep down inside. They want to leave, but for whatever reason, they fear what could possibly happen if they leave, because you have to keep in mind that, they are threatened, that if you leave, I'm going to do something to your family, your friends, your children. So out of that fear alone, they go back, or either they just stay. And it's just unfortunate because there are so many who did attempt to leave and remove themselves from that situation, and leaving made things a whole lot worse. Either, they showed up at your mama's house, or they showed up at your girlfriend's house that they knew, because they know everybody that you are connected to. So they will stop at nothing, some of them, until they get to their target, which is you. And they will destroy everything and everybody in the path until they get that. So it's just unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. Let me scroll down. Baby girl says, I left my abuser 10 years ago and never came back. Kudos to you, sis. Thank you so much. And we love you for choosing you and deciding to leave and not go back. And, just for you even having the strength to leave, that took courage. That took courage. Girlfriend Chronicle says some may have surpassed it as well. And then one day something triggers the memory. Absolutely. Absolutely. Baby girl says her pain is her pain. And as women, we should be supporting her. I totally agree. I really just wish that we as women would do a better job at supporting each other, because we need each other more than we think we need each other. Because um, just looking at the temperature that society is in today, like, it seems like we as women always get the short end of the stick. And if we don't stick together with each other, how will we survive? Like, we literally are all we got. Teresa says, it's especially hard if you have children. Absolutely. You have to be super strategic when children are involved, because especially if he's the father, they'll threaten you. Well, you can leave, but you can't take my children. And what mother wants to leave a situation but leave their children behind? It's not possible. Teresa also said, I'm still in counseling, but I'll be darned. Okay, I think I read that one before. Sis says some stay because the abusive men isolate them from friends and family. Imagine a man with Diddy's money and power. Yes, sis. Yes. Money talks. And we can only imagine the things that his money has already bought him out of. Irene says, please seek help. Yes, sis, please seek help. Peace, love, and light says, my word wasn't God said go. God spoke to me and said enough. Okay, sis, enough. Enough is enough. And that's what I shared last week on the live. My final straw was, I shared that I was having dreams of me doing something to him. Every single night, I was having that dream that I was doing something to him in his sleep. And when I saw that dream, I literally had to pray and say, Lord, I know this is not how you would have me to live in this relationship. And if it was meant for me to not be in this relationship anymore, please give me a sign. And he did just that. So he'll give us signs. He really will. And you just have to have the strength and courage to just make up in your mind that you are going to do, but you have to be careful. You really do have to be careful. You have to move strategically. You can't just randomly say, I'm going to go. And I'll say to anybody, if you are in that situation and you are contemplating a plan to remove yourself from an abusive situation, please don't announce your departure. Do not tell your abuser that you are going to leave. Don't threaten them with that, because things tend to get worse. Continue to work on your plan behind the scenes, but do not announce your departure. Don't ever announce your departure, because they will make it worse. They will make it worse. Let me scroll down. Daughter of Israel said, with some people, abuse means love to them. It's sad, but yes, it is. Some women feel like if he's not hitting me or abusing me, if it's love, because he's told me that so many times. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love you. It's unfortunate, but it's so true. Baby girl says, yes, ma'am. One of the reasons I have a tiny circle of friends. Yes, have a tiny circle of friends. And then I tell all of my mentees, always have at least that one friend that he knows nothing about. Don't let him know where they live. Don't let him know the phone number. Don't give him any information, so that you'll always have that safe haven that you can go to if and when you need to get away and don't need to be found by him. Don't tell them everything, because see, they like to get in your business and know, well, who is that? Well, is this your friend, and where do they live, and who are they dating, and all of this information. They want to have all the information, but yet behind the scenes you don't know any of their friends. You don't know where any of their friends live. But that's just another way, another tactic of them trying to isolate you from everybody and to know who you are in constant contact with. So just try your best to find and have that one person that you can call to let them know, if I happen to have to call you, that means something is going on at home and I need to get to you. But have that one person that he knows nothing about. Reen Bass says Cassie is still being victim shamed today. Absolutely. I was just reading conversations earlier. She is still being, they tend to, for whatever reason, think just because she got that $30 million that that's all she wanted. You don't think she deserved that for all of the pain and suffering she went through? She didn't deserve something? Because I feel like she went the civil route because at that time she wasn't sure that she could win a case against him in criminal court. So her receiving the $30 million does not mean she's still not going through trauma. Peace, love, and light says it's hard to confide, especially when everyone thinks the man is the best thing since apple pie, and they judge assuming it was you. So you shut down and go with them praying your way through. That's very true. I don't understand that. I just don't really understand this man versus woman analogy that our culture tend to have. If an abuser is abusing you, it had to be because of something you did or said. It's never, why are you hitting women? And the thing is that bothers me as well. Where are the friends to these men? Why do their friends, their guys, why do they not step up to the plate and call them out and say that they're wrong? Why do they not address these issues? Why is it that we just show up and act like nothing is happening? Because, see, I'm the type of friend, I call my girlfriends out. I tell them when they're wrong. I say, sis, now you know that wasn't right. We may laugh or whatever, but I'll say, you was wrong. You should have apologized. Where are the men in their life? And I'm talking real men. I'm not talking about the ones that are just like them. I'm talking about Where are the real men in their lives that stand up and support the women and call the men out on their wrong when they're wrong? Where are they? Sis said, and people still shame her after seeing the video. After seeing the video. And right, sis, before the video was released, he was on video himself saying that she was lying. And then all of a sudden, when the video is released, he's trying to be a better person. I asked her to forgive. Well, you don't get to ask me to forgive you. And I just forgive you after years and years and years of abuse and manipulation. It's not okay. Victims are always victims. Miss Sugar Sweet says that's a tough question to answer. As women, you would think that we have more sympathy and apathy for other women. You would think. You would think. My question is why? Hey, Ladell. Hey, sis. Thanks for pulling up to the table. How are you? Thanks for joining. Reen Bass also said, and people still saying it was a money grab. There's not enough money in the world that can replace the physical and mental abuse that Cassie suffered. I totally agree. There is not enough money in the world. I don't, I'm just baffled. I'm baffled. I don't understand why we go so hard against each other. I don't understand. It be our own people. It really be us against us. It really be us against us. Teresa said, I'm sure it did trigger you because you relived that moment during. Absolutely. It did, sis. I had to woosah for a minute and I had to sit down with myself and say, that bothered me. So I see why, there are victims that fear coming out and speaking out. I see how people like, let's say, even with Melody, and how people have victim shamed her. She was the victim. She was victimized by her husband in her marriage. And for people to sit and victim shame her for wanting to share her story or talk about her story as many times as she wants to talk about her story, that's her experience. That's her story to tell. And she can tell it as many times as she chooses to tell it. Who are you to tell me when I should stop sharing my story? That does not mean I'm bitter. That's what I went through. That's my experience. And sometimes in conversations, things are going to come up to where it's going to take us back to that place and we're going to talk about it. But that does not mean that I'm bitter. It does not mean that I'm angry. It just means that that's my story. That's my experience. And I get to talk about it. Miss Sugar Sweet says, for a long time, I wanted my ex-husband to apologize for the things that he did to me, but I had to come to the realization that it would never happen. It would never happen. One thing they won't do is hold themselves accountable. They will not hold themselves accountable for the things that they've done, for the things that they said. They will still continue somehow, some way to blame you. I only did it because you said this. I did it because you did that. They will never hold themselves accountable. Teresa says, I don't understand why we, especially African American women, give abused women a hard time, such as Destiny, AC, and all those ladies did to Mel. I totally agree. I don't understand either. I don't, and still to this day, even with watching some of the old clips from the Love and Marriage Huntsville with Sis on her channel, I still to this day still don't recall a time to where any of those women rallied around Mel and say, you know what, sis, I hate that you went through what you went through. I am here for you. I apologize on behalf of him for putting you through what you went through. I just never saw them rally around her and say, you know what, you're going to be okay. We're here for you. And I just never saw that. Still to this day, I have yet to see, and we're what, 8 seasons in? Teresa said, what goes on in the house stays in the house, is what the old folks say. Absolutely. That's exactly what what they say. What goes on in this house stays in this house, which is why there are so many um adults that are walking around with mental issues, because we've had to suppress those situations and experiences that we went through in our house, and we had to keep it in the house. Cinnamon Swirl says 19 is so far from grown. Too many of us want to put our babies out at 18. No, ma'am. I totally agree. I totally agree. Irene says these other fools who want to judge and tell her to get over it. Yes, totally. Sis said even the story about how she wore her hair shaved on one side, he pulls her hair out. That's horrible. Just reading the deposition just triggered me. Reading everything that she went through, um, it's just triggering. It's hurtful that they feel that um, they have to put hands on a woman. Like, you're a whole big old man and you feel that you can beat a woman into submission. Like, that angers me. Now, again, I was not one that went through physical abuse. I shared that last week. I didn't go through physical abuse. And I thank God for the father that I have, and I thank God for the brother that I have. That would have never been able to happen with me. And because of the teachings and the militant teaching that I had in my household, um, I'm going up with him. You know, you hit me, I'm hitting you back. You may whoop me because I'm little. Oh, but you gonna know I've been there. You hit me, I'm hitting you back. And but not everybody, was raised that way or was taught that way, taught to fight back. A lot of us don't know that love doesn't hurt. And I think that's where a lot of women go wrong. They don't realize that love doesn't hurt. Love shouldn't hurt. Love shouldn't equate to you putting hands on me, because we all got daddies. You're not my daddy, so you don't put your hands on me. You don't put your hands on me. You don't own me. You don't control me. I'm my own person. If I choose that I want to walk away, that's my option to walk away. You don't get to force me into situations that I don't want to be in. Since when were you given control over the woman that you were dating? What caliber of man would you have to be to think that this person is only with me because I'm forcing her to be here? You should look at yourself and feel how less than you are. She's only with you because she is being forced to stay there. And why would you want to force someone into a relationship with you when they don't want to be there? Teresa said, first ladies in the church sitting on the front row, mentally abused and sometimes physically abused. They have to sit up straight and smile. Absolutely. They come in all shapes and forms. All. Cinnamon Swirl says, do you remember when that YM who accused Bill Cosby, she said her mother told her to go back. He's rich. He's another one that had a lot of allegations behind him too, sis. A lot of allegations. I just don't feel like I'm sitting here because of the caliber of men, these all men. We're talking R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, Puffy, and all of the Weinstein, or whatever his name, all of these men of high caliber, right? All of this money. You can have anybody in the world that you choose to have. Why would you force yourself on someone or abuse someone to have them on your shoulder instead of you can just go buy anybody you want at any given time? Daughter of Israel said Cassie's parent had substance abuse issues. Oh, okay. I had no idea. I had no idea. Cinnamon Swirl says they should put Diddy under the jail. Yes, they should. They absolutely should. They should put him right under the jail. Hey, LaDawn. LaDawn says, I know now, even with nothing, I'm the prize. I love who I'm becoming. Absolutely, sis. Love you, choose you all day, every day. All day, every day. You are the prize, sis. Irene says exactly. Some are mentally abused and used as little girls. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Real talk. Baby girl says, real talk. When I left at 32, it took me until I was 34 to realize I was beautiful and worth it. And you are beautiful and worth it, sis, for sure. Af Max says, hey, Pink Table Topics and chat, walking and listening. Hey, sis, thank you for pulling up. We appreciate you. Daughter of Israel said, another thing, many of our people judge a man or woman by what they have and not the horrible things they've done. And that's a huge problem as well. Money and power shouldn't triumph morals. 100%. 100%, sis. It definitely should not trump morals. And we tend to always want to look at the man and what he have, and they'll put him on a pedestal and act like he didn't just do what he just did because of the money and power that he possessed and because he's well known in the community. So we shouldn't do it. We shouldn't try. And one of the other ones that really was upsetting me, a lot of the other comments were, why are all these women trying to tear the black man down? Did that same black man not tear all these women down? So we shouldn't hold him accountable because he's a black man? We shouldn't hold him accountable because he's a black man. Let's not tear the black man down, but let this black man just continue to abuse, misuse, and mistreat all of these women and other people that they come in contact with. But because he's a black man, don't say anything. Because he's a black man and society is already against the black man. We as black women shouldn't contribute to tearing the black man down, like just give him a pass. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Mama V says a lot of women suffer in silence and will not tell anyone. Absolutely. There are a lot of women to this day still suffering in silence and not sharing with anyone because of fear that they will be victim blamed. LaDawn said they taught me how to fight for myself, but not love myself. I get it, sis. I totally agree, sis. Sis said, yes, he will give us signs. Absolutely. He gives us sign. Miss Sugar Sweet says, I didn't tell anyone until 2 weeks after I had left. My parents could tell I wasn't happy though. The people around you can definitely tell when something is going on, and they have subtle ways of, trying to question and talk to, but just keep on, like I was saying earlier, if you can sense that, someone in your family, friends, co-workers, or whomever is in an abusive relationship, don't give up. Keep trying. I know it gets hard when you keep getting pushed back or they keep telling you nothing is going on, and you can sense something is going on. You can see, that they're coming around and wearing dark glasses when the sun isn't shining, trying to cover up and hide bruises, and I'm quite sure he's not too far. He's watching to see, who you're talking to and what you're saying, out of fear. But somehow find a way to connect with them and let them know that when they are ready, that you will be there. And just be there and just continue to support and try to be there as much as possible, because so many women just feel like, I don't have anybody that I can tell, or if I tell people, I won't be believed. So just be patient. Patience is key. I know a lot of times we want to just walk away and throw our hands up, but please just continue to be patient and allow them the time and space needed to get the courage to finally say something. So just continue to be there for them. Cinnamon Swirl says, remember how Hotel tried to make Melody stay by stating no man would want you with 4 kids. Wanda, with her ignorant arse, said the same thing. Absolutely. Absolutely. They will put the fear in you to make you feel that um no one will want you or whatever the case. They'll do anything to try to manipulate you into staying. That's one of their manipulation tactics. I put the link in the chat, ladies. If anybody would like to come up, share a story, um, to share something on the topic, or if you have gone through a situation, come up. Feel free to come up and share your story. It can help so many of us that are going through or have gone through a domestic situation such as this, who's been abused, some who may have not gotten to the point to where they have the courage to speak out about it, or feeling insecure, or just feeling a way about what they're going through. Any encouraging words will help. Hopefully, like I say all the time, that hopefully this video can reach a multitude of women, and so that women can see that they do have support. There are women who do support and believe when they are saying and crying out for help when they're in abusive situations. And um, so anything that you can say to give encouraging words, we have to be there for each other like never before. And like I said, if it's not us for us, who's going to be for us? And we're all we have. And it's about building trust with each other, building the sisterhood, and just just being there for each other. Hey sis, Girlfriend Chronicles, welcome to the panel, sis. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Good
I
evening.
am well. Thank you for joining. Let me read I was just about to read your comment saying I was never physically used, but the mental was enough to break me. And when I did something I never ever thought I would do, I knew it was time. I journaled my way back to counseling. That's deep, sis. That's deep. Thank you for joining. What do you have to say on the topic?
Yes, and thank you for having me, and thank you for this topic. Yes, the news is getting s- it's getting a little weary in regards to listening about Cass, not just
Mm-hmm.
Cassie, just in general, the whole situation
Mm-hmm.
with Diddy, and I'm kind of just like, okay, it's just a lot for me,
Mm-hmm.
um, just because of some of the things that happened in the past. My mom was physically, and I can remember seeing after one of the altercations with her stepfather, my mom's nose being bloody, and I said, I will never ever in my life allow a man to physically harm me. And my mom said, we better not ever. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember being a teenager, and I was dating a thugabug, and warned against it and everything. But we want what we want when we're young and dumb and naive, and just like in the Bad Boys. And my car was parked outside. He had a clothing store, and my car was parked outside his
Mm-hmm.
clothing store. And I'll never forget that he had um hoisted me up into the air. He had hoisted me up into the air. Here, Mocha.
Mm-hmm.
And my godfather, who was a school teacher at the time, and he's 6'6", probably 270 something. Just so happened to was driving by after work, and he stopped, and he must have saw the situation, and he came in, and he was like, if I can't do that to you, don't be doing that to my daughter. Like
Mm-hmm.
that ain't what we about to do. First and ever only time um, hands were on me as an adult. And I'll never forget that, because I said, I will never, I got too many men in my family to allow that to happen. And they held me accountable, for one, for not, for me not calling him even while a situation was getting heated. Um, and, you know, lesson learned, and that was the end of that, and that was the end of that type of want to be with that type of um the type of man in my life, just for whatever reasons. But like I said, young and dumb. But as I grew older and dealt with a gentleman, and that mental wore me down. That
Mm-hmm.
mental, that mental, and this is my opinion. By no means do I say, this is how anyone else should feel. I said that mental was worse than physical. Not like I've ever been touched, but I've been in, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
fisticuffs with my sister, so and whatever with whomever else. But scars go away with that situation, but that mental was stuck with me, and I
Mm-hmm.
had to. I reached out to my cousin who's a minister, and who counseled me through it, because I didn't need like a destiny therapist.
Right.
I needed
A
a
real one.
I needed a family man, a family member. So I needed a Christian counselor that was going to tell me, based on how I was brought up, um, of how to come through, how to get through it, how to, that I was valuable, that I was loved, that I was cherished, that I was beautiful, that I was fine, I was this, I was that, and that's not what how I was raised to um be treated, or in everything. And like the things that I told him, and he told me to journal, because I told him I even felt like I had stopped breathing at one time, like the
Mm.
breath was just taken out of me,
Yeah.
from my situation. Like I just felt winded a lot dealing with this person, like mentally winded, physically winded, just emotionally winded. I mean, just winded, just from everything from that person. So, my journaling, which I said I will eventually transcribe into a book or whatever, just for
Mm-hmm.
others. But I had to do that. As you said, while I was journaling, writing from like the first day that I met this person to the last day of conversating with this person, conversing. I don't know what word is right, whatever at this time, but um, um, triggered. I was like, did I allow myself to go through
Mm-hmm.
that? Sherelle, did you? Oops, whatever. Sherelle, did you really? Um, he said that to you, and you didn't, for real, girl? Like a lot. Um,
Right.
yeah, a lot of it was triggering and mentally, and I cried. And I think why I haven't transcribed is because I it's a lot of wet stains on my ink, wet stains in my notebook.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it was a lot of tears, but also a lot of breathing again, fresh air,
Mm-hmm.
fresh breath. We went on a boat ride, and I was on a little jet ski, or a little water tube or whatever, not the little tube, and I fell off. But and I don't know, when I came out of that water, I just felt like another baptism. I felt refreshed. And it was my girlfriends took me out on a boat that day, and it was like, you need to get out. It's like going, you just going through something. But I'll never forget that was like a rebirth, a breathing again. Um, and which
Mm-hmm.
was so needed. Sometimes we just need to step away from ourselves, and like Chit Chat just did with her vacation, her birthday.
Mm-hmm.
You going on your own and just loving on you, and learning to take, doing you and being you, and just breathing again. I was able to breathe again once I journaled, and once that came about, I felt better, and I'm doing so much better, because I know when I did one act that I've never ever and will never ever do again. When I done that, I was like, girl, this ain't you. And that you got to get away from that type of person, because you gonna be in jail fooling with him. And I don't like orange. So yeah,
Right.
that's my story. That's just a little snippet. But yeah, I encourage anyone to just start journaling. And when you journal and you just read and you just release a lot of hurt and pain, and just thoughts, and just I also added scriptures in there that meant things to me while I was journaling, and how those scriptures um, helped me through that part of that particular part of the relationship. It's it felt good. So that's my story. I just journal and do whatever you have to do, not just journaling, whatever you feel, whomever would feel, to be able to just get yourself back. I think just getting yourself back, getting you back, is the best thing to me. That's the win when you get yourself back. That's the winner. That's it.
I totally agree. Thank you so much for sharing that too, sis, Girlfriend Chronicles. And thank you for sharing about the journal. I never thought about journaling. So thank you for sharing that, because we did we did an exercise in one of our support group classes, and I had them to write down a list of things that hurt them the most in the experience, the thing that they kept holding on to, and had them to write it down on a piece of paper, and then put that piece of paper into a brown paper bag. And at the end of the exercise, I had them to ball it up and throw it in the trash. And it was a way of release and relieving themselves of some of this baggage that they were carrying with them. And I think if more women knew of ways how to get back to their grounding and get back to, like you say, helping to get back to who you are. And though self-care plays a major role in helping you get there. Just like you said, with sis taking her solo vacation, like that's a major step. Taking yourself out, doing something nice for you and getting back to you, and trying that journaling method, and just doing things that can help get you out of the situation. Because I too, when I was in my situation with my ex-husband, I couldn't breathe either. I found myself having anxiety attacks all the time when I was around him, or at home in the same vicinity as he was. And it was just a trigger for me to even be in his presence. So like you said, whatever it is that you have to do to help get yourself to a space to where you can release some of this stuff. And it's not going to happen overnight. We're not saying that, because it takes years and years for some of us, depending on how much trauma that you have to unpack. But just find a way that works best for you to help, even if that's just taking a walk and releasing some of this stuff while you're taking your walk, or whatever you have to do. So thank you so much for sharing, sis. I really appreciate you. Hey, sis, welcome to the panel. How are you? Hey,
Good.
sis.
Hello,
Hey,
hello.
hey, hey,
Both of
look
you.
on. What do you have to say, sis?
Well, thank you, Girlfriend Chronicles,
You're
for
welcome.
your story.
You're welcome.
Um, well, I want to say, I grew up in a big family. My grandmother had 17 kids, and she ended up having to raise some of the grandkids. And we knew she loved us because she provided and stuff like that. But we didn't really get poured into on how to really love ourselves or love on ourselves. So I didn't really get the concept of that. So as I started having relationships, my thing was more verbal ABing, because that's what I heard growing up. My grandfather would be drinking and he would call names. I never seen him, do the physical, but he was verbal. And when I started having relationships, I started allowing myself to be um in situations where I was verbally AB, because I was doing a lot of things wrong. I was wild. I was committing crimes. I was doing a lot of things. So self consciously, I told myself that I deserved it sometimes. Like, well,
Mhm.
I did something wrong and they don't want to hit me. So, therefore that's the way they're expressing themselves. I would be giving them excuses. But when I started realizing that I didn't deserve it and I was, better than that, was when I started changing my life and I started going to church and I was doing things the right way, and I would catch him still trying to tear me down for even the good things I was doing. If I'm working, oh, you got extra hours because you're sleeping with the manager. It started, like that. And I'm like, hold up. I ain't doing nothing wrong to be deserving all this now. Like, hold up. And then I realized, no, people that verbally AB people got their own stuff going on. And I'm human. Just because I make mistakes don't mean I deserve to be a doormat or a punching bag for anybody. And I started putting my foot down. And I remember throwing my clothes in the green garbage bag, a couple of green garbage bags, and had my friend pick me up while he was at work. And I left the whole state. I left Connecticut and went to Boston. And he begged back, and I told him what I wasn't going to allow and accept and what was going to change. And it wasn't always easy, but he eventually did. And he worked on the things he needed to as an individual, and I continue to work on me. No matter what mistakes I make, no matter what is going on, I don't deserve. You can talk to me about some things, but you better watch how you're saying it, and that's my motto today. Like, talk to me the way I talk to you, period. And that's with all my relationships. But going to church, praying, being around other strong women, really helped me realize my strength to be able to even realize that. But I want to say about the Cassie thing real quick. I thought it was so sad that all
Mhm.
people thought about was, oh, she's getting money. First of all, we've all, not everybody, but I've been in situations where I stayed in relationships because of certain things. To me, it was life or death. You understand? It was, I need a roof over my head, I got to eat, or whatever it was at that time. And Cassie stayed because of what, a lot of reasons. It wasn't just one. She signed contracts. There was things that, he had his life in her hands, and especially her mind. And even though it was, she got money, doesn't mean, like you said, she doesn't deserve the empathy. You know what I mean? Um, Women go through a lot, and it takes a lot, and it takes that one thing for each person as individuals, and it takes different things for people to get to that point where you say enough is enough. And you do need a village, and people. And if your village is not strong enough, then you might have to go outward. And that's how it happened with Cassie. And when I see other women making excuses or downing her because of the way she went about it, I really say, sad about you. You're just not a girl's
Mhm.
girl, and it's just is what it is. There's a lot of women out there for their own reason, even with men. The reason why they don't have men around them or women around them telling them the right thing, because when they have them around and they know those are the people, they look at them as lecturers, and they don't want to be around them that much because they don't want to be caught on their stuff. They want to do wrong you
Mhm.
know and it's sad that it's a more and more of them. But I try to impact people individually every day, especially the younger generation, and just hope that it sticks. And the more people do it, the more that they realize that being the right way and have morals and values and not selling your soul and accepting things, they'll see that that's more of the better way to go.
Thank you so much for that, sis, and thank you for sharing your story. I totally agree. There are so many women that we've seen that are just not girls.
Mhm.
There's no way I would ever side with a man over my sister. And we're not and don't get me wrong, some of us can be out of control, but we're not talking about those. We're
Right.
talking about women who are true victims. And after, like you said, after seeing that video,
Mhm.
now, if we saw that little snippet,
Mm-hmm.
imagine what has gone on behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine the abuse, the mental abuse, the physical abuse, and everything that she had to endure. And let's not forget when we heard her deposition to where he beat her so bad. One time he had to fly her to Hawaii to heal so that
Mhm.
nobody would see her. Now, can you
Mm.
imagine? Now, and she's already tiny and frail. She's not that big, but
Nope.
just imagine, everything that that girl, out of all the years that she was with him, how much mental anguish and abuse that she went through at the hands of that monster, because that's exactly what he is. He is evil. He's a monster. I hope he gets everything he deserves. I hope other women continue to find the courage to speak up and speak out about what they went through at the hands of not only him, but whomever their abuser is. I really just hope this starts a movement toward giving women the courage to see that, I know if they are coming at someone as high powered as Diddy, then they'll be more likely to come after whomever my abuser is. So I hope
Mhm.
this gives other women the courage to and the strength to just speak out and just speak up about situations, regardless of how long it's been since it took place. A release is necessary. In order for you to start your healing journey, you need to talk about it. You need to verbally release it and say that it happened, because sometimes it happens to us, but we keep it suppressed and we keep it,
Mhm.
we hold it in. So it's just eating and festering. And then we have to take into consideration as well, a lot of us got a lot of these health issues because of a lot of trauma that we've dealt with. A
Child.
lot of this trauma that we've dealt with and the stuff that we've gone through is the reason that we have so many health issues now, because we haven't properly healed from those things. And stress is a silent unaliver of women. So we deal with all of this stuff, and then we're having to suppress all of this stuff. That's stressful. That's stressful. We are literally making ourselves sick by holding this stuff in. So I totally agree. Thank you so much for sharing, sis. Hey, sis, what do you have to add to the topic?
Hey, sis. First of all, great topic. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Okay, great topic. Tough discussion, but a well needed one. I want to say first to LaDawn, I totally agree about the village. And fortunately for Cassie, she found her village in the man that Diddy hired to be their personal trainer, which is
Mhm.
now her husband. And that was God stepping in because I
Mhm.
always thought that he was probably one of a few that were allowed to come by. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To Girlfriend Chronicles, to you real quickly. I get what you're saying, as far as a lot of us having men that will step for us. But for me, and we had a similar discussion before in our cutie crew members only lives. The only way a woman can prevent a man from AB using her, especially physically, is sometimes powing, to end
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
situation.
I
Mm.
Because
agree.
as I mentioned, look, a lot of us got men that's gonna step. Mine's gonna step every time. But most times when they do step, it's after. It's once they've learned what this person has done. You know what I mean? So I think that, and I understand what you're saying, but I think that a lot of us really have to pay attention to that because we don't have that control, unfortunately. And as I've said before, it's always the men that's going to stop them from proceeding with possibly physically hitting you.
Yep.
But when it comes to Love. We have to love ourselves more than how we want someone else to love us,
Mm-hmm.
especially in relationships or, it could be friendships. We have to raise the bar. If anybody don't meet our standards, cut them off. We
Mm-hmm.
also have to recognize the signs and the red flags, and let's not overlook them. I'm guilty of that. I think a lot of us are guilty of that. We can't turn a blind eye to something that we know felt uncomfortable, is uncomfortable, that could be verbally them saying something, I'll be shut up, or, things like that. Most people probably won't leave right away for something like that. That is a
Mm-hmm.
red flag. That is a
Mm-hmm.
sign. We also have to realize that we cannot heal other people no matter what. So
Amen.
a lot of us, when it comes to these relationships that we find ourselves in, we fall in love with the potential of who we think they can be. you
Mm-hmm.
know oh well, maybe he's not working right now, but I know if we get together and put our minds together, we gonna be all right. Or we got to stop that as well. To the younger women, don't fall for potential. Pay
Mm-hmm.
attention to what's presented to you, who's standing before you, and proceed that way. And again, don't ignore any red flags. When people show you who they are, believe them. That's it for me.
I agree. And you said a whole lot too, sis. Especially saying you can't heal other people. That is so true because for whatever reason, it just seemed like we've been conditioned as women to try to heal other people. We take on so much trauma and baggage from a lot of these men that we end up dealing with. It's almost like, we're trying to be their savior and we can't be their savior.
Mm,
They are who they are, but we try to love whatever they're going through out of them, and we can't. We continue to stay and continue to be the stepping stone for them, and it's only just further tearing us down. So that's definitely one of the things we have to realize. Like you say, pay attention to those red flags. When we see something, say something. Don't overlook it, because like you said, the first step is them calling you a B and seeing how you're
mhm,
going to handle that. When they start calling you that, that's just a temporary test to
mhm,
see, like, okay, if she's okay with me saying that, then the next time,
mhm,
I'm going to push her. And then if she stays
mhm.
and I push her, the next thing you know, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. They keep trying and testing you to see how much they can do and get away with before you say enough is enough. So definitely
Yeah.
great points, sis. Great points. And I want to say to T Lee, sis, thank you so much for you and your husband getting your baby out of the situation that she was in. Kudos to you all for stepping in and bringing your baby home out of that situation, and
Mhm.
continue to love on her. And it is such a blessing for her to have parents that cared enough to step in and support her in that way and to bring her out of that situation, because so many times these situations don't end well. So kudos to you and your husband for doing that. Welcome to the panel, sis. Thank you so much for joining Real Talk with Grace and Mercy. How are you, sis?
I'm doing wonderful. How y'all doing?
Well,
Hey,
well.
Hello.
I just wanted to come up and just share a little bit of my story. I was sitting here just listening to everybody, and I was contemplating whether I should click the link or not. Normally, I do tell my testimony just to encourage somebody else, but I really just don't talk about it. They have a song. I've been through the storm and the rain, but I made
Mm.
Mm,
it,
Yes,
and so
I know
ma'am.
that's right.
that is my testimony, because it doesn't start off as because I have been mentally and physically abused. I'm
Mm,
AB. It doesn't start off that way.
mhm,
It starts off, they're so sweet, they so kind, they whining you, they dining you, they make you feel
Mhm.
like you the only person in the world. And and that could be a red flag as well,
That
because he wanted
Mhm.
all of my attention, all of my time, taking me
Yes.
away from my family and my friends.
Mhm.
It's me and you, and we going here, we going there, or whatever, and just treating you, wonderful, giving you all the compliments, just doing everything that you want your man to do or your husband to do. And then after they isolate you, because it's gradually, it's slowly but surely, they isolate you from your family and your friends, and then you all by yourself. And the topic is, why didn't she just leave? Well, for me, I didn't leave because I was in the church, he was in the church, uh, and I couldn't believe it. I was in disbelief. How can I did not see? I'm praying and talking to God. Why I couldn't see it? I didn't see it, and I woke up. Now I'm sleeping with the enemy. We married, all this. I'm sleeping with the enemy. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. I don't want nobody to know what I'm going through. So I didn't
hey.
tell
Mhm.
nobody. I didn't talk to my family. I didn't talk to my friends. I was just, it was just like I was in prison.
Mhm.
And because I was so ashamed and didn't want nobody to know, that was the main reason why I stayed there. And even in the midst of everything that that he put me through, I mean, he used to AB me with anything he could get his hands on. And I'm
Mm.
going through this for years. And
Mm.
and even with all of that, I could have been unalive in just that, but it
Yeah.
never entered in my mind, even though I was going through all of these situations or whatever. And he would be calling, he'll be going through my phone, calling my co-workers in the middle of the night.
Mm.
Sometimes I'd be in the bed and he'll just come
Mhm.
in there and just throw water on me, put me outside in my
Mm.
night clothes. I'm
Mhm.
trying to go with the man next door, and I'm
Mm.
trying to do
Mm.
this,
Mm. Mm.
and trying to just all kinds of things. But it never really clicked in my mind that I could be unalive.
Yeah.
Even the police, would come or whatever. I was afraid to say anything. They would leave me cards and saying, this could happen or whatever. Get in
Mhm.
contact with us. You could be unalive, whatever the case may be. And it never sunk in. It was just one time. I think I had came home for lunch, and we were just sitting there, and I don't even know what happened, but he began to hit me with the pots and the pans in the kitchen. And
Mm.
so
God.
even then I got myself up and I went back to work, and then I came home. He would at one time try to run me over with the car, and just all kind of stuff that he was doing. But I don't know what he was doing, but when he told me, it physically, even though he was acting it out, when it physically came out his mouth and said that I will unalive you, be all,
Mm.
all I could think about
Mm.
was, I didn't want to be unalive. I grabbed when the coast was clear. I grabbed my keys, I grabbed my purse, and I left everything. I didn't care about no clothes, no nothing. You can have it all. And I don't even know
Mm.
where I was going, but I know I was getting away from there. And so but I finally, after that, I finally went back to my family or whatever until I could get back on my feet. But in all of that, people don't leave for all kind of reasons. And I was just embarrassed. I didn't want nobody to know that. How could I make this mistake? How I didn't see it? How did I get here? And it was just, all kind of things was going on in my mind, and I had dreams like you, Pink Diva, doing something to him. So it was gonna be either him or it was gonna be me.
Mm.
And so,
Mm. Mm. Mm.
I was, just wanted to, share my testimony, to let people know, praise God, please, if you're going through that situation or whatever, get the necessary steps, call the hotline, find the resources, but don't
Ma'am.
tell them that you trying to, move in silence. As we always say, please don't tell them. Because if you tell them, they don't do nothing, but they're gonna try to do everything they can to stop you from leaving. I used to be afraid to go to my job after I left. And because I was afraid he was gonna come to the job and might not just me or my co-workers, putting everybody in harm. I didn't want my family to be in harm. I didn't want, nobody to be in harm's way. And I was always looking over my shoulder, trying to see or whatever. But I didn't necessarily put the restraining orders out. I got me a pow, whatever I needed to do to protect myself. I had my mace. I had my whatever weapon. I don't know if you can say whatever it is, a tool that you can get. I had it, and I had it in every place. I had some hid in the car. I had it in my purse, whatever I can get to, because I didn't know when he was gonna show up or what he was gonna do. And so, so it's we have to protect ourselves, and and just just do whatever we can do, but we need to move in silence. And and always, the Bible says, watch as well as pray. Watch your surroundings, and and just take the necessary steps that you need to protect yourself. Take self-defense classes, whatever you need to do to protect yourself, because we only get one life. And so we want to, protect ourselves and our lives at any cost. And that's all I had to say.
Good word.
But God.
What
But
a testimony.
Yes.
And your name says it all. Real talk with grace and mercy, because it was by God's grace and mercy that you are here to tell your testimony. So thank you so much for coming up and sharing that testimony, because it can help so many people. I really feel like if more women were like you, that were open enough to share their testimony, it would help a lot of us. It really would. And we are just so thankful that God saw fit for you to make it out of that situation and be here with us to tell that testimony. And, we know a lot of times, the Bible says it's not a testimony without the test. And sometimes we have to go through things so that he will put us in a position to be able to share that testimony and help other people. So I am so thankful to you for being brave enough to come up and share what you went through, because there are so many women that are going through similar situations as what you just spoke of. I remember my best friend went through that situation with her husband years ago. She and he was the type that would do the checking of the phones and just randomly call numbers that was in her call log just to see who would answer on the other end. Or if someone didn't answer, he would get angry and he would abuse her because they didn't answer the phone, so he could see if it was another dude or not. And I remember one time we had went to another one of our girlfriend's house, and I was dropping her off. I was the driver that night, so she was the last one for me to drop off. And when we were going, I think we went to a car show. Car shows are really big in Mississippi. And we went to a car show that Sunday evening and had a good time. The entire time we were there, he was blowing her phone up. He wanted to hear what was in the background, who was in the background. And if you're at a car show, it's a lot of music, it's a lot of talking in the background. And he's texting back and back. I hear Negroes in the background, and who's trying to talk to you, just all of that stuff, to the point to where we say, you know what, let's just go. Because we didn't want her to further get in trouble per se with him, because he was looking for a problem, trying to find a reason to be angry with her. And we were just out, literally just out enjoying the car show. And so, but the phone service was bad. So he could send a text message, but if she answered, the call wouldn't go through. So it wasn't that she was purposely trying to not answer his call. So I remember getting in, I dropped her off at home. I say, look, he called, he was supposed to be at work. This is the thing. He told her, you're just trying to stay out until I leave and go to work and all of this kind of stuff. So we're thinking that, he left, went to work. So I dropped her off. Dropped her off. I went home. So I was like, okay, I'm going to stay here until you get inside. And she did. I saw her go in the house. I went home, text her and let her know that I made it home. And she didn't respond. Usually we always respond, okay, sis, have a good night. But she didn't respond. And I kept texting, sis, you okay? No response. So I ended up falling asleep. So the next morning, of course, it was on my mind. So I was like, let me call her. I called her. And when she answered the phone, she didn't sound right. She was like, hello. And I'm like, why are you whispering? I'm thinking she was whispering. And she was like, I can't talk. I said, what do you mean? I said, you got to go. You need to call me back. She was like, can you hear me? No, I can't talk. She's like, my voice. I said, well, what's wrong with your voice? Because it wasn't like that last night. Do you not know he didn't go to work? And she told me, she was like, he didn't go to work. When she walked in, so to walk into her house, you have to go through her living room. He was hiding behind the curtain. She had wall to floor windows, and he was hiding behind the curtain. She went down the hall and was starting to, take her clothes off so she could get ready to go to bed. So he jumps out from behind the curtain. Of course, she thinking he's at work, thinking somebody had broken into her house. So all she knows is somebody grabs her from the neck, from the back, and like he literally choked her unconscious, only to find out that it was him because he felt like she had been out cheating on him and literally choked her unconscious. The kids were in the house, mind you, because her little sister stayed, her teenage sister stayed with the kids. When she woke up the next morning, he had a gas can sitting by her bed, by her nose, and with a note, and said that I will burn you and everything in this house up before I allow you to leave me. So when I say we would be surprised at the things and the lengths that they will go through and the things they put you through, is horrible. So there are so many stories like this. And of course, it got to the, well, I'm sorry, or I overreact. No, you don't get to overreact in that manner. You don't get to choke me unconscious and say you just overreacted. You don't get to put a gas can by my bed with your child in the bed and threaten to burn the house down. So it's situations like that that we have to deal with, and it's just pure evil. It's just I just don't know. And I know the first thing that people like to say is, there are so many people dealing with mental issues. I get that, I agree, but everything ain't a mental issue. Some of these people are just evil. Everything is not attached to having mental issues.
Right.
Because if you can premeditate abusing somebody or premeditate that you're going to unalive somebody, that ain't mental, that's evil. That's evil. So we need to stop giving excuses to these people and just, everybody dealing with mental issues. You know what? I'm quite sure I'm dealing with a mental issue with somewhere, but I'm not waking up saying that I'm going to unalive somebody. We all have trauma, baggage, and a lot of stuff that we've gone through, generational curses, all of that stuff. But we're not waking up saying that I'm going to abuse and unalive somebody.
That's right.
So we have to get out of the habit of trying to attach all of these demonic acts and saying that it's about mental issues, but because it's not that, and we have to get out of that. So thank you so much, Real Talk with Grace and Mercy, for sharing that story. I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate you for sharing that story, because it will help a lot of us. So I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me go up and read some comments. Teresa Wright says, and it's so unfortunate when the kids blame you because they really don't know what the mom has went through. That's totally true. That's totally true. Miss Sugar Sweet says, it's both comforting and sad that some of us have experienced some of the same things. It really is. It really is. It's sad that, this is our stories, right? it's sad that, a part of our history is that we went through some of the stuff that we went through, but God, right? But God, it's because of God's grace and mercy that a lot of us made it out alive. A lot of us made it out in our right mind. I remember growing up, my grandmother used to always add to her prayer, thank God for waking me up and enclosing
Yes,
me in my
ma'am.
right mind. And I never used to understand when I
I
was
say
young.
it every morning.
Yes, me too.
Every morning.
When I was younger, I never understood that line, enclosed in my right mind, because
Mhm.
with some of the stuff
Yes.
that we've been through and some of the things that we have endured in our lifetime, it is because of God's grace and mercy that we are enclosed in our right mind, and we
Right.
are able to share those stories and experiences with us amongst this panel and people that we come in contact with, because we could have not made it.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
We could have not been here to share this story. So that means we have a bigger purpose. God allowed us to go through and come out of those situations so that we can use our testimony to help the next sister. And
Yes.
if I can shout it across the mountaintops, I will. To anything that I can do to help the next sister, I will never look down on the sister for coming out and deciding to share her story. I don't care if it's 5 years, 10 years,
Right.
35 years, however long it was, to sit here and share our stories, because I still have stuff I haven't even shared with anybody.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure a lot of us are still holding on to stuff, because a lot of the stuff that we could share would completely shut some of our families down if we share some of the stuff that we really went through
Okay.
and some of the things that we really experienced, and they're not ready for that story. So
Right.
it's by God's grace and mercy that we are in our sound mind. And
Mm-hmm.
we wake up every day enclosed in our right minds. Because,
Mhm.
like I always say, I thank God I don't look like what I've been through. Because if a lot of us look like what we've been through, we would be toe up, as they say. Toe up. So
True.
thank you for sharing your story. I really, really do appreciate it. I really appreciate you
Yes.
sharing your stories. And
Can I
I
ask you a
really,
question?
yes. Uh-huh.
Where was the disconnect with the um the generations with the abuse? Like, I don't remember my grandfather abusing my grandmother, or use um
Mhm.
harming my grandmother or doing anything to my grandmother. Um, it seems like it was after that generation, like our parent wise, in regards to the men feeling like they weren't valued, even though that's been from us touching ground in the States. Um, um,
Mhm.
it just doesn't seem like, when we were slaves, and um, they weren't treated as humans and things like that. But our grandparents, at least my grandparents, and I'm 50, um, grandparents still brought, Uncle Charlie brought that check home, Grandpa brought that check home, um,
Mhm.
Mhm.
bills was paid. You didn't hear about Miss Susie having kids around the corner until Papa was gone. You know, where did the disconnect happen to you, anyone, where it became physical? Because it doesn't seem like it's getting any better with these kids harming their girlfriends in high school. I'm hearing more and more about
Mhm.
it in
Mhm.
high school, and I'm
Yes.
like, wait a minute now. I'm that aunt. I rise for
Mhm.
my nieces and nephews. I will roll up
Oh,
on the
that's right.
chap you touch my niece or nephew, because I'm that body auntie.
Mhm.
My sisters are, oh no, we're gonna go to no, who parent need to be up there when I get up there too? What teacher didn't handle this too? I'm that aunt. because
Mhm.
you touch mine, I'm touching you. So in order for me not to touch a chap, I'm gonna need a parent to ride up there and roll up there, so we all can have conversations and powwows, and smoke signals need to be going up, because we bringing it all, except
Mhm.
for my sisters, because they not gonna bring it, but auntie will. So I'm just wanting to know, like, don't touch my nieces and nephews, like in high schools. I'm just trying to see why it's not being handled with the kids. Like, where are they even getting that it's okay to do that as well?
Mhm. I agree that there is a disconnect somewhere, and I think that it was happening, but I think in the world of social media it just started to highlight
Mhm.
a lot
There
of
you
the
go.
abuse because social media is now very prevalent and people have access to. Now I can record that I'm being abused, whereas I used to would have to tell someone and they wouldn't believe me. But
Mm-hmm.
now, I'm seeing a lot of victims are recording their abuse, and they're putting hidden cameras and things like that. So I think in the world of social media, it is now highlighting it, whereas it was easier in the past to keep it hidden because
Yeah.
it goes back to what we said earlier, that what goes on in this house stay in this house. So
Fact.
a lot
Mhm.
of times there was abuse going on, but it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
spoken of outside of the house. Excuse me, just like there was abuse amongst children, it wasn't spoke of because they didn't want the publicity and the family to be looked down upon because Uncle Charlie touched you in a way that he shouldn't have, and they didn't talk about it outside of the household, so they swept the
Mhm.
stuff under the rug and we didn't talk about it. But fast forwarding to you mentioning about high school, those are now some of the places that we're starting to do support groups because surprisingly, as early as 12 years old, is happening in schools. It's
Mhm.
happening with these children that are dating in 12, 13, 14 years old. And abuse is very prevalent in those relationships. And these are children who don't even really know who they are, but yet they are in abusive relationships.
Yeah.
So I say to parents, pay attention to the behavioral changes of your children. Pay attention to your daughters. Pay attention to your sons. Pay attention when you pick them up and they normally are very talkative, and then now they're more shut off and want to go in the
Mm-hmm.
room and shut the door. They're not as active with family and friends, and just pay attention to their demeanor because when my children were coming up, when my girls was, I went through rooms, I went through purses, we had conversations. I asked them questions. I talked to them about people touching them inappropriately, and I taught them what inappropriate looks like. And I told them that I love them at home. I told them that they were beautiful at home. And I pay attention to who they're dating. You can't just tell me that you have a little friend or that's my boyfriend because I got in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the parents? Where do they live? How did you meet this person? What kind of conversations do y'all have? So these are conversations that we need to start having as early as the young teen years, the tween years, 12, 13, 14, because surprisingly it's happening way more than we would like to think that is happening. It's starting at those early age. And a lot of people apparently, some of these boys are seeing this behavior at home. They're seeing, their dads be abusive to their moms, or they're seeing their moms live-in boyfriends being abusive to them, or whatever the case may be. And I think that because we have so many support groups for girls and women, where are the support groups for the boys and the men? That's my
Mm.
problem. Who
Sis, you
are
just took
who
my final thought because I got that written down. Go ahead.
I'm just so I get
Yes,
so
ma'am.
angry because we're teaching the women the girls how to be women and how to be proactive and pay attention to
Mm-hmm.
red flags and how to, make sure you're in healthy relationships and make sure you do this
Okay.
right and do that right. Who's mentoring the boys? Who are pulling these boys and saying that it is not okay for you to put your hands on a woman? You do not own her. She is not your property. Walk
Mm.
away if you're angry. Don't ever be so angry to the point to where you feel like you got to put your hands on somebody. Who's talking to these men, some who are husbands, who's telling you that you shouldn't be putting your hand on your wife? And I'm talking deacons, pastors, all these men that come and sit in the pulpit and sit on the front pew, but then get in the car and be disrespecting their wives, abusing them. Who's talking to these people? Where were the support groups? Because I can't remember any coming up, but I can't remember being set in the rooms and being saying, you do this as a lady, and as a wife, you do this. And if you want a husband, do this. Make sure you're clean. Make sure make sure you're not just running through men, and you do this and you be submissive. And who's teaching the men? Who's teaching the boys? That's my question. And that's what angers me. And especially when we're talking about the topic of domestic abuse, when we're talking about that, the first question, the first thing people want to say is, just leave. Sometimes you may have to relocate, go to a different city so he can't find. Why do I have to do all that?
Yeah.
Why do I have to pick up the pieces, forget my life as I knew it, pick up the pieces, go to a whole nother state, another city, and start all over? Why do I have to keep starting over? Why are we not holding these boys and men accountable? Because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be in this situation, right? So why are we not holding the men accountable? Why?
I agree. I agree. And I want to add, I think too, because like when we were coming up, it was stay in the kids' place, going there. So if it was happening, they
Mhm.
didn't let us see it. But I think when the 90s, early 80s and 90s, with the epidemic coming out and men imping women and hitting them in front of their, kids and people letting things happen that we wasn't able to see, I think it just really changed. And it just got worse because then it became they have rights, they have um the hotlines, and you can't discipline your
Mhm.
kids, and all that started changing, and it just took a whirlwind, and people didn't have the information out there like in Boston. Now we have, but like you said before, there was groups for women, but now we have a group of men, and some of them are retired athletes or people that got out of jail and changed their lives for years. They have a group that they meet up with the teens, and they teach the young men how to tie a tie. They teach them how to put on a suit, how to have communication skills, interview skills,
I'm good.
along with telling them where they came from and the mistakes they made. We need more of those groups. You
Mhm.
know, we have a single fathers coalition up here that help single fathers and help guide them. But it's not enough. It's not enough because we've been taught, trained, drilled since
Mm-hmm.
coming out. The men have been left with no guidance, with nothing but work, take out the trash, that's it, protect the family.
Mhm.
And that just don't cut it no more.
Mm.
I
And
agree.
can I jump in, sis, real quickly? To honestly, I promise you, I wrote this down because even with this discussion tonight, we're talking about women or being there as a support for each other or our nieces or our daughters and all of that. And I put, but let's talk to these little boys as well. A lot of them can be privy to what they should and should not do at home, but they go to school and they got friends, and their friends may have unfortunately, child, a Marceau, somebody that we know that leads his
Mm-hmm.
house with an iron fist, and women are beneath and all of that. So I totally agree that we definitely have to pay attention to the little boys. I'm like Girlfriend Chronicles. I think I told you guys this. My nephew was bullied, and he's a big boy now. Well, he's grown, 40. But I jumped out the car on 4 boys for him that jumped in. I jumped out and went and snatched one of them up by his collar. They were seniors in high school, you know. But I also wanted to say real quickly though to Girlfriend Chronicles, um, and I'm not saying that it did happen in your family, but it's a lot of great grandmas and grandmas and mothers who suffered in silence. So I don't think that there was necessarily a disconnect because we're talking about the human race and human behaviors. And I, for one, think it was going all the way back to slavery. Yeah, we got the clear man that's beating us, but I also see how the clear man looking at you. You know what I mean? Look how he looking at you, and you get to go in the house. So I think that this is one of those things, unfortunately, that could have started damn near from the beginning of time, and they protected us. You know, again, the great grandmas, the mamas,
Mhm.
and all of that. Also, if they are grandmothers, and especially in the later days, child, because now grandmas could be 20, but back then our grandmothers, you know, were older, and we were too young to really comprehend what could or could not have been going on, you know. So that's just my thought on that. But again, excellent conversation. I'm gonna be listening, sis. I'm gonna drop down because I gotta let the fur babies out in the yard. But I want to say real talk, with Grace and Mercy, you had me over here almost in tears. But God, but
Yeah.
God.
That's right.
To the women in the chat. Oh, and I also wrote down, where is the child? Sis, I think you read the comment. What Miss Sugar Sweet said. It's comforting and sad that some of us have experienced some of the same things. And
Mhm.
I'm just gonna end it off with, and baby, that's why this single life is looking good to me. I'm scared. I'm
I
scared.
know that's right. And it's so many that think like that, sis. So many have gotten
I'm
because
one of them.
before I deal with that, I will be
Baby,
by myself.
baby.
You know,
Because you
and
have
what
to learn people. You know what I
yes.
mean? You gotta find out who they are. Are they a representative? Is this them? You know, I ain't got time for that. Mm-mm.
And that's a process, a very long process of getting to know, the people, because it takes a long time before the representative go out of the way before the real one really steps up. So it
Yeah.
takes a minute, once they get you where they think they want you,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then the real man shows up. So, and that takes
Mhm.
a lot of time and a lot of attention. So I agree. I've heard so many women say it that they choose the bear over the man.
I'm choosing the bad baby. But awesome. I'm still here and I'll still be in the
Okay,
chat.
sis.
But thank you to all of you ladies on the panel. Excellent discussion and comments. But I'll be
Thank you,
listening.
sis.
I'm right here at the door going to watch the
Okay,
fur
sis.
baby.
Thank you for
All right.
sharing.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. So now we are 2 hours in, and we're going to go around and get the final comments. Of anybody have any final comments, any words of encouragement that you have for any of us, anybody in the chat. Give us your final thoughts and some words of encouragement. Girlfriend Chronicles, we're going to start with you, sis.
I'll just say, as you already said, just be encouraged, stay encouraged, take time out for yourself, learn yourself over if you feel like you've been downtrodden, and it's tomorrow is always a new day to start something new. Love on you. That's what I can give.
Excellent, excellent. I really do appreciate that. Just like you said, love on you. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you. LaDon, what are your final thoughts, sis, and what words of encouragements would you have?
Um, I would just say my final thoughts, first of all, is I'm so happy Cassie did what she did because it opened the door for other women to see that to have strength, and that there's more people that'll rally around you that'll hate on you, and I'm all for bringing it to the table. And I just want to say to the younger women, sometimes all the time, you pick your morals and values over money.
I agree. I agree. Thank you so much, sis, for sharing. Thank you so much. Real Talk with Grace and Mercy, sis. What are your final thoughts and words of encouragement that you have for us?
My final thoughts and words of encouragement is that you are not to blame. It's nothing you said, nothing you did, anything. You are not to blame. It's not you, it's them. They have the issue, they have the problem. So we need to, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So we have
Yes.
to, we just have to step out by faith and tell somebody. God will lead us to a person that can help us get out of that situation. And please move in silence, and just know that you are somebody. God, you were fearfully and wonderfully made by God, and God did not put us here to be ab used, abused, or anything like that. He wished above that we
Mhm.
prosper, be in health, even as our soul prosper. So we don't have to live beneath our privileges. We don't have to stay in prison, because we can be not in the physical prison, but we can be in prison in our minds and in our own homes. So whom God has set free is free indeed.
Free indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Thank you. You said a whole mouthful. Who God set free is free indeed. Amen. Thank you, ladies, so much. This was such a great topic. Did y'all enjoy the topic?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, 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 yes.
Good. I am so glad everybody enjoyed the topic. I enjoyed the topic. It's things that I've been seeing, and I felt that it would be a release for us to actually be able to talk about it, to get it out, cuz sometimes we can hold things in too long, and sometimes we just need to gather around our girlfriends and our sisters and just have conversations like this. And again, like we were saying, if you have teenagers, be it boys or girls, talk to your children, talk to your boys, and let them know what it looks like to be in a healthy relationship, and what not to do and what to do, just as well as we are talking to our daughters. If you are a single mom and you have boys, seek out some sort of mentorship for boys in your area to see if you can put them in programs that can help teach them. If you have a boys and girls club or something, put them in some sort of program that can help teach them, how to grow up and be respectful young men. Because just as much as we are talking to our girls, I won't say it defeat the purpose, but it kind of negates the purpose that the girls are being taught when the boys aren't being taught. So it has to be a collective. We have to be reaching out and nurturing and loving on both the boys and the girls so that they can grow up to be in healthy relationships as young men and young women. So I really appreciate it, every one of you, for coming up to the panel. I 100% appreciate you for being brave enough to share your story. You have touched so many people. I really appreciate it. I just seeing people in the chat sharing about their experiences and what they have gone through and what they have experienced and what they are currently experiencing. Um, Peace, love, and light, sis. We appreciate you. We love you. We're so glad to hear that you are in therapy and that you have enjoyed the topic and that we were able to just help give you a little bit of relief by talking about our situations and just showing you that you're not the only one that went through what you went through. And we hopefully hope next time that you will find the courage to, click the link. And that's for anybody in the chat. The panel is for anybody that clicks the link and come up and share your story, engage in the topic. It's not just for certain individuals, it's for when I drop the link in the chat, you are more than welcome to click it and come up. And don't be nervous, don't be scared, because it's just us. We're sisters over here. We love each other, we support each other, And, we're patient, we're kind to each other. It's about the sisterhood over here. So don't ever feel like you can't click the link and come up and share your story. But even if you're not comfortable as of yet to click the link and come up, thank you so much for sharing in the chat. We appreciate it, because what you share means a lot to us as well. So, and it's all about us being able to pull from each other. So thank you so much. I enjoyed the
Ciao.
live. I enjoyed having each and every one of you here. To my panel guests, Girlfriend Chronicles, thank you, sis, for coming up. LaDawn, thank you, sis, for coming up and sharing. Real Talk with Grace and Mercy, I appreciate you. Thank you so much, sis, for coming up. My sis Chit Chat, thank you so much for coming up and just for sharing. And to everybody in the chat, thank you so much for sharing. If there were any content creators in the chat, shout out to you. Shout out to the replay gang that'll be pulling up to the table later. I appreciate you. Please make sure you hit the like button on your way in. Feel free to leave a comment. Share the video. Everyone in the chat, feel free to share the video to someone that you feel this video may help or touch in some sort of fashion. So please feel free to do that. And we are going to end on our encouragement quote of the night. It is: revenge is surviving, getting out, and breaking the cycle. Revenge is surviving, getting out, and breaking the cycle. So to anybody, again, if you or someone is dealing with domestic violence, the hotline is on the screen: 1-800-799-7233. Please reach out. If you are afraid or don't have anyone that you can talk to, again, inbox me over on my Instagram page, Pink Table Topics. Inbox me. I'll be more than happy to sit and chat with you. If you didn't feel comfortable coming up on the panel, or just feel comfortable sharing in the chat, I really do appreciate you. So again, thank you all so much for joining Pink Table Topics. I really, really, really appreciate you, Divas, for rocking with me. And as always, I had a blast with each and every one of you. And remember, over here, we all get a seat at the table, because it's not about me, it's about us. So you go have yourself a good day. And if you can't have a good day, don't you dare go messing up nobody else's day. Have a good night, Divas. Have a good night. Good night. Peace, love, and light. Good night, sis. Good night, Teresa. Have a good night. Good night, sis. Chit Chat. Have a good night, sis. Rose Armstead. Have a good night, sis. Thanks for joining. Good night, Irene. I appreciate you for being here, sis. Good night, Juan. Thank you so much for joining, sis. I really appreciate you. Miss Sugar Sweet, thanks, sis, for joining. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate you. I hope to see you again here next week. Reem Bass, have a good night, sis. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a good night. Have a good night. Pro, thank you so much for joining. She said, I'm going to wash your back tonight with candles. Put your stunner shades on. I don't know, Pro. You may be a bot. We're gonna remove you. We don't know who that is. Baby girl 1981. Thank you all so much for joining. She said, thank you all. And thank you, sis. Thank you for joining tonight. Have a good night. Have a good night. I appreciate you for being here. Good night, Real Talk with Grace and Mercy. Good night. Good night. Good night. Have a good night. Chat with you soon.